Whatever will be, will be. The future is ours to see. So baby, hold on to me. Baby. What's these things you can say about me? Back. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I really miss my little intro songs. I know it's dorky, but I don't care. It makes me pumped up and ready to teach. How you guys doing? It's Friday. Woo-hoo. Doesn't mean too much to some of us, but it's still Friday everywhere around the world, except maybe where they're ahead of us. Is it Saturday in Australia? Are they 17 hours ahead of us? Ah, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hi, Echo. Hi, Benjamin. Lurkers. I am excited to wrap up the week. Maybe I'll get to do another stream. I've been wanting to share so many things about Humboldt and what's going on. And as I look around and I watch videos on the stand-up people, you know, sometimes it's a heartbreak because we're so off. We're so off with where we could be and where we should be. I was just watching Marjorie Taylor Greene exposing some of the money that Hunter Biden used for his whores. I'm like, this is ridiculous that we have this going on, you know? What I see going on is we have a corporation of America and we have the We the People of America. And the We the People of America, we are not doing our job, you guys. We need to do our job. We need to do our job. We need to present oversight. We need to be on guard for infiltrators. There are so many things that we're allowing to happen. And I'll just show you in the very beginning of our study here what the question, when I did this study, I just started this again recently. What are we on? Lesson 13. I remember this first time it was posed, I must have just blew it off. But this time, the question was, are we good enough to self-govern? Because on the measuring stick that the founders took and wrote out to try to figure out a government that we could have to govern ourselves, to rule ourselves, they wrote down everything they knew. They studied everything they knew. How much would it take for people to get past all of their own biases and prejudices just to learn our history? That's an exhausting thought too. All the slander that's been done. But let's not throw out what they've done here. They wrote it out. Ruler's law is all the way on the left. That's tyranny. No law at all is all the way on the right. That's anarchy. And the people's law, our government that we have, our common law government, is right in the middle there, where all power is in the people. We have the power. We still do have the power. People look around and they're like, oh, no, we don't. This is so corrupt. It's so bad. Yeah, it's because we're not there. Because we're not taking our rightful place and ruling. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that's what we started with. And we're learning all about the types of government that were in place at the time when our government gave us our government. Our founding fathers, they weren't actually a government. They held their allegiance to the Queen until they didn't. And then they gave us our government, our Constitution, which is awesome. And there are people that have gone back to it. Michigan, Alaska, Missouri, California's on our way. Good things are happening. So I hope people don't feel like, you know, this is totally useless. Like sometimes I do. Sometimes I just want to pack it up and go away and forget all about it because it looks so grim and hopeless. Like people don't care. People still running around calling us a democracy, which we're going to learn about today. And I realized I gave the quiz for today's quiz last time too, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll just do our, where is my quiz? Did I delete it? Maybe I did because I was like, oh, yeah, I already did this one. That's okay. Hi, Jen. Good to see you. Yeah, I must have took it out because I thought we were going to be doing a different one. I got screwed up. I know that's no big surprise for some of you, but I got screwed up because they stuck the quiz of 10 and 11 together. That kind of messed me up. And I went through the whole thing yesterday. So let me see if I can't get that back on there. I mean, I already did the quiz, so maybe I'll just do the reading. I already did the quiz on Wednesday for the principal 10 and 11. So I was going to reread the answers to you, but it looks like I got rid of it. Let's see if I can't add it real quick. It should be right in here. Let's see. It should be right here. Yeah, there it is. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. It's worth a reread. Easy answers. Algernon Sidney. We need to know who he was. Do you guys remember who he was? First dude to get beheaded for saying there was no divine right of kings. And John Locke went across and set it over the pond from a safer distance. Let's see. Yes. And I'm just having a little problem with my internet today. I hope I'm coming in okay. You guys hear me okay? Am I laggy? I don't know. There we go. Okay, we published. I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hopefully it's here for us. Because you never know. I don't see it here yet. Let me refresh it. Algernon Sidney was beheaded in 1683 for saying there was no divine right of kings. John Locke said the power to rule comes only from the people. They cannot have a title. What did Locke say about the obligation of the people to a leader who comes to power other than by the people's consent? That man or woman is a usurper. What does chief or king mean in Anglo-Saxon? Cyning, C-Y-N-I-N-G. In Anglo-Saxon, what was the duty of the chief and when did it end? His duty was to protect the people until they didn't want him anymore. Thank you, 5x5. Right on. Until they didn't want him anymore. 6, the founders insisted the Constitution be approved not only by the people, but the body of the people. 7, why did they want this? Because they believe the great creator has never given to men a right to vest others with authority over them, either unlimited, either in duration or degree. My, how far we've come from God's natural law, right? Jefferson said governments should not be changed for light and transient causes. 9, when he said the leaders breach the trust of the people, they forfeit their power to rule. 10, what part of the people had power to rule a society? Only the majority. So half plus 1. There is no right of revolt in a minority. What would the founders say about the doctrine of civil disobedience? That wasn't their doctrine. Theirs was the pen and intelligence and a government with laws that are to be obeyed and enforced for us to be protected. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to be protected. We all know that. If you don't think you can change any law without the majority because you're not in it, then get in it. Then get in it. That 11th principle. The majority of the people may alter or abolish a government which has become tyrannical. That's my absolute favorite. Right of revolution. We do have a right to abolish this government. Do not let anybody tell you that we do not. We do have a model for which many things have been abolished and new governments are in place. However, our site is down right now, which is a bummer. Our site is down right now. But we're just going to go on and read here the 12th principle. America shall be a republic. People running around talking about democracy. That's all mind control, propaganda, and lies. They did not study all of this to give us a democracy. We shall be a republic. The principle is highlighted in the Pledge of Allegiance when it says, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. There are many reasons why the founders wanted a Republican form of government rather than a democracy. Theoretically, a democracy requires the full participation of the masses of the people in the legislative or decision-making process of government. This has never worked because the people become so occupied with their daily tasks, they will not properly study the issues, nor will they take the time to participate in extensive hearings before the vote is taken. Excuse me. The Greeks tried to use democratic mass participation in the government of their city-states, and each time it ended in tyranny. A democracy and a republic compared. A democracy becomes increasingly unwieldy and inefficient as the population grows. As a republic, on the other hand, governs through elected representatives and can be expanded indefinitely. Whoopsie. James Madison contrasted these two systems when he wrote, democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property. Turn this down. I'm cooking myself out here. It's cold this morning. And have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. That's your democracy for you. They are ever found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property. They have been short in their lives and violent in their deaths. There's your democracy for you. Keep running around saying we're a democracy. You do not know your history. As a republic, by which I mean a government in which the schemes of representation take place, opens a different prospect and promises the cure for which we are seeking. Madison later went on to point out in the Federalist Papers how an expanding country like the United States could not possibly confine itself to the limitations of a democracy, but must rely upon representative or Republican form of government to protect the ever-expanding interests of the people. He said, in a democracy, the people meet and exercise the government in person. In a republic, they assemble and administer it by their representatives and agents. A democracy, consequently, must be confined to a small spot. A republic may be extended over a large region. As the state grows, representatives grow. You send your people to represent you. A republic defined. To make his position completely clear, Madison offered a concise definition of a republic as follows. We may define a republic to be a government which derives all its power directly or indirectly from the great body of the people and is administered by persons holding their offices during pleasure for a limited period or during good behavior. It is essential to such government that it be derived from the great body of the society, not from an inconsiderable proportion of a favored class of it. Otherwise, a handful of tyrannical nobles, exercising their oppressions by a delegation of their powers, might aspire to the rank of republicans and claim for their government the honorable title of republic. Can you say the People's Republic of China? In name only. Modern emphasis on democracy. Where did this come from? During the early 1900s, an ideological war erupted and the word democracy became one of the casualties. Today, the average American uses the term democracy to describe America's traditional constitutional republic. But technically speaking, it is not. Foundations had hoped their descendants would maintain a clear distinction between democracy and a republic. Never forget Maui, Lahaina strong. The creation of the current confusion developed as a result of the New Movement in the United States. Approximately 100 people met in New York in 1905, listen up now, and organized what they called the Intercollegiate Socialist Society, ISS. Chapters were established on more than 60 colleges and university campuses coast to coast. In time, the co-directors of the movement became Harry Laidler and Norman Thomas. Laidler explained that the ISS was set up to throw light on the worldwide movement of the industrial democracy, known as socialism. What was this new movement attempting to accomplish? Socialism is defined as government ownership or control of all the means of production, farms, factories, mines, and natural resources, and all the means of distribution, transportation, communications, and the instruments of commerce. Obviously, this is not a democracy in the classical sense, and it is the very antithesis of a free market economy in a republic. The ISS adopted a snappy slogan for the times: production for use, not for profit. This seemed to catch on, like soap the rich. That's my words. Hundreds of men and women who later became big names in government, press, radio, television, and motion pictures were among the early recruits. Are you connecting the dots now? The League for Industrial Democracy. However, by 1921, the violence associated with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, had given the term socialism a strongly repugnant meaning to many people. The ISS therefore decided to change its name to the League for Industrial Democracy. The word democracy was supposed to carry the message that through the nationalization, government expropriation, all of the means of production and distribution, the nation's fabulous resources would become the property of all the people, hence a democracy. Then America could enjoy production for use, not for profit. This meant that the word democracy was deceptive. Various devices were used to alert the public to the true meaning of the word. For example, the U.S. Army's training manual number 2000-25, published in 1928, contained a whole section explaining the difference between a democracy and a republic in their original historical sense. Government manual defines a democracy. The manual had the following to say concerning the characteristics of a democracy. Here's what they said about a democracy: a government of the masses, authority derived through mass meetings or any other form of direct expression. Results in mobocracy. Attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude toward law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or government by passion, prejudice, and impulse, without restraint or regard to consequences. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. It will be recalled that James Madison was almost as strong in his own historical evaluation of past democracies. His words, as indicated above, were, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Government manual defines a republic. Just a couple more pages here. This is a short read today. The government manual then proceeded to outline the characteristics of a republic, which all of the founders had vigorously recommended over a pure democracy or any other form of government. Authority is derived through the election by the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude towards property is respect for laws and individual rights and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude toward law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence, with a strict regard for consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. Avoids the dangers extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. James Madison, as we mentioned earlier, had defined a republic along the same lines. We may define a republic to be a government which derives all its power directly or indirectly from the great body of the people and is administered by persons holding their offices during the people's pleasure for a limited time or during good behavior. Identifying the states as a democracy. In spite of these efforts to clarify the difference between a democracy and a republic, the United States began to be consistently identified in both the press and the school books as a democracy. President Wilson helped contribute to the confusion when he identified World War I as the effort of the Allied forces to make the world safe for democracy. President Wilson had surrounded himself with many of the early recruits to the ISS movement, and these may have encouraged the adoption of this slogan, just as they later changed the name of their ISS organization to the League for Industrial Democracy. A review of the roster of early ISS members will also reveal that by 1930, the more brilliant young leaders of the movement from World War I days had risen to some of the most prestigious positions in politics, press, publishing houses, radio, academic circles, teacher training colleges, the National Council of Churches, and just about every other major center of opinion molding influence. However, the intellectual development of the ISS members had not followed the same line of maturation. Some wanted the new United States democracy to become a socialist state with the people's consent, democratic socialism. Others wanted a mixed system of part socialism, part free enterprise. Some were becoming disillusioned and had started swinging back to the founders' traditional formula. A few had become enamored with the seizure of power by force and violence and had become leaders in the Communist Party movement. Nevertheless, all of them continued to refer to the United States as a democracy. Democracy loses its identification with socialism. Following World War II, an interesting semantic transition began to take place in the American mind with reference to the word democracy. To begin with, the communists, the National Socialists of Germany, and the democratic socialists throughout the rest of Europe had all misused the word democracy to the point where it had become virtually meaningless as a descriptive term. As a euphemism for socialism, the word had become totally innocuous. Furthermore, socialism, whether spelled out with a capital or a small s, had lost its luster. All over the world, socialist nations, both democratic and communistic, were drifting into deep trouble. All of them were verging on economic collapse, in spite of tens of billions of dollars provided by the United States to prop them up. Some had acquired a notorious and abhorrent reputation because of the violence, torture, starvation, and concentration camp tactics they had used against their own civilian population. All over the world, socialism had begun to emerge as an abject failure formula. To the extent it was tried in America without ever being called socialism, it had created colossal problems, which the founding fathers' formula would have avoided. All of this created a subtle change in the American mindset. People continued referring to the United States as a democracy, but mentally they had begun to equate democracy with the traditional constitutional republic. It became popular to refer to American democracy as though it were quite different from everybody else's kind of democracy. That is the status of the word democracy in the United States today. The majority of the people are instinctively leaning more and more toward the fundamental thinking of the founders. They will probably end up calling the United States a democratic republic, which is the term used by the followers of Thomas Jefferson. The attack on the Constitution. With the preceding historical picture in mind, it will be readily appreciated that the introduction of the word democracy to describe the United States was actually designed as an attack on the constitutional structure of government and the basic right it was designed to protect. As Samuel Adams pointed out, the founders had tried to make socialism unconstitutional. Therefore, to adopt socialism, respect and support for traditional constitutionalism had to be eroded and then emasculated. In view of this fact, it should not surprise the student of history to discover that those who wanted to have democracy identified with the American system were also anxious to have Americans believe their traditional constitution was outdated, possibly obsolete, perhaps totally obsolete. In this author's college days, it was popular in political science and economic classes to point out that the Constitution was written some 2 centuries ago by a people who were about 95% farmers. Now they would say we live in an industrial society and the needs of the people can no longer be accommodated under the archaic system provided under the U.S. Constitution. Not only certain teachers expressed this opinion, but U.S. senators proclaimed it. Occasionally, even a president would say it. In this writer's file, there is an interesting collection of such statements. But this does raise an important question. No doubt our economic and social circumstances have changed tremendously since the days of the founders. Has this made the Constitution obsolete? Are you obsolete? Do you matter? Do you have a voice? I think you do. Anybody telling you that we're a democracy is wrong. Call it a democratic republic if you want. We are the uniparty after all anyway. Anybody telling you that our Constitution is outdated is wrong. You see, lawyers, term limits, recalls, and just simply voting once in a while is the method of madness. That's barely doing enough. And we have an out of control corporation taking all of our money and just selling us out left and right, left and right, left and right. I can't even keep up with it. I can't even keep up with everything that's going on. Hey, Devil Dog, good to see you. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I love that little tidbit he gives me once in a while about if you're ever standing in court, is there an indictment from this county here? And by the way, I want to see some law licenses too. I try not to be so cocky, though. Try not to be so cocky. But I do not understand how it is people, do you not realize that farmers, how important farmers are? And they are coming for our food. Why, just this morning I was looking in headlines that said Oregon continues to assault the farmers. They don't want us to grow our own food. They've already taken the control of the energy. You know, all of our energy. I realized that when I was watching this guy that was in Southern Humboldt and he had this beautiful piece of property. He had a running creek and he let him know he was going to use that creek for hydro water. Do you know that they didn't let him do that? And he complied and then he got solar panels. This is how they push people into what they want. I was thinking, man, he should have fought that. He should have totally fought that. We've got flowing creeks and water all over. Trinity County has hydropower. That's how they run their entire county, is off of hydropower. And we're sitting over here with PG&E like sitting ducks still. Just crazy. It's just crazy to me. The whole thing is crazy to me. But I'll get off here before 30 minutes is up. We'll have a good short one today. And maybe I'll get to come back on. There's so many people I want to highlight that are standing up. I'm going to have to do a good long stream and we'll just watch people that are standing up. You know, that's fun. That's what we like to watch. It's inspiring. It's motivating. We need to be looking at successes. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of people that are dishing out all the drama. It's all day long. You can find drama all day long. I'm about solutions. I want to find out what is our history? What can we do now? What are people doing now? What did I do wrong? What can I do right? That's what we're about here. Love you. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you all. I really do appreciate you all. And I'm praying for our country. I'm praying for our leaders. You know, we got criminals in charge because we're not in charge. And I believe that we can do better. I do think that I think we have the ability to be good enough to govern. Are we good enough to govern right now? I don't know. I'm not sure. I just pray God help us, you know. I just pray God help us. No weapon formed against you stands. that you're doing your role and you're doing your part. Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto thee, and give you peace. I'm out.